I know that the Bears, when after you were drafted, they talked about the versatility from, I think it was East-West game, of just like seeing you play a lot of different places. Where have you gotten most of your reps the last 3 days?
Yeah, so since I got here, majority focus has been at left guard, but obviously that versatility was a huge reason why I was drafted, why I'm here, and I look forward to working the other spots, right guard and center as well. I think working the interior three will kind of be my main focus going forward. Have the tackle background, but obviously working the interior three is going to be a major focus, and yeah, we'll just work more of the others as summer and spring go along.
You'll get a chance tomorrow, I guess, to start incorporating with the veterans for the rest of phase two. What do you want to learn from guys like Joe Tooney, Jonah Jackson, people who have done this in the league for a long time?
I just want to see and learn how they, handle themselves as a professional. Obviously being a college student is very different. Obviously you have classes. You stick to a more routine schedule. And then in the NFL, it's just ball. Like, I want to see what those guys do for their bodies, their recovery. I want to see what they do, nutrition wise. Like, what's right for them. I want to see how much time, what they're studying in the film room, like what exactly they're looking at and what they're keying in on, and I just really want to learn how they handle themselves really more off the field, than on. And obviously, I know they have great work ethics, being in the league for this long. So I'm excited to see how that all goes.
Of course, you're going to play wherever they put you, but
Oh, yeah.
where do you feel like you lock in positionally with the flow state, right? Where it's just like it feels natural for you.
So, obviously guard has been, more of my natural field this past season, but, really this offseason, the primary focus has been center. I definitely have a good understanding of how to play the position intellectually. Obviously, it's a new playbook here, and there's an adjustment period for that as well. But I really think that center, like all in all, fits more my body type. Fits kind of more of what my strengths are, and obviously I have that guard flexibility as well. But I really look forward to learning and adapting to center a lot more.
Luke, there was a stretch there. We saw you taking a bunch of snaps next to Ozzie Trapillo. Just what was it like specifically playing alongside him for that stretch?
That was fantastic. I had a chance to play with some of Ozzy's teammates at the Shrine Bowl. They had nothing but great things to say about him. I'm currently 0-2 against him in my career right now, from two different schools, and so, but it's great to finally meet Ozzy in person. He's a fantastic dude, tremendous work ethic, and yeah, it's a great guy to play next to and communicate with. I think we were connecting very early on here in this camp and got better each and every day. And I look forward to continuing to working with them.
Not to bring up another college loss, but you guys lost to Rutgers this year. But did you notice Kyle in that game, and what do you make of him out here?
It's actually funny you say that. Like right as we were, decleaning and taking off our tape, I went up to Kyle because I hadn't had a chance to connect with him yet, and I said, like, Kyle, you terrorized us last time I saw you, man. Like cold November evening in East Lansing, and he runs for 200 yards, I don't even know. That might be underselling it, but no. And but getting a closer up look at Kyle and how he operates, how he is as a player, tremendous too. Obviously, I'm not really focusing on what the backs do in Indy or in their meeting room, but from what I've gotten so far from him is that he's a tremendous athlete, tremendous player, and great person as well.
Keep the college theme going here. You and Colson talk much about the big rivalry. What's your interactions?
Yeah, we touched briefly on it yesterday. Obviously, he's been in that rivalry a lot longer than I have. But we had a little banter going there, just fun banter, just going back and forth. I got to do that with a Michigan guy, and but seriously, all in all, Colson's a great guy. You wouldn't notice that he was a Michigan player if you just met him for the first time. But no, but Colson's awesome, and yeah, very talented player, and another guy that burned us pretty good there in the season.
Aside, what is it like building camaraderie with some of these guys that you've been rivals with in the past, and all of a sudden you're aiming for the same thing?
It's really unique. Making this jump from the FBS where I don't really know anyone on this level, and then coming up here where I played against at least off the top of my head 3 of the draft picks that we have in a regular season game, and it's great to know that, like, hey, like, you've seen this guy perform on the field on opposite sidelines, and he's a great player, but you don't know how he is as a person. But so far from what I've gotten is that every single one of these people in the building have been phenomenal character picks for this organization. Really great guys to like get to talk with, learn and grow together with, and I look forward to doing more of it.
Now that you have the chance to work with your position coaches, I guess what are your early impressions working with Dan and Kyle DeVan?
They're amazing. Like they're they get on you for sure. Even though it's rookie orientation, everything's new to you. They treat you like you've been there for a while. They treat you like how they do veterans and everyone else. Like they push you. They're really good at teaching and coaching as well, in the in the classroom and on the field. And I think they definitely bring a great combination of like, hey, we're going to get on you, we're going to push you, like we're going to see what kind of player you can become, but also like really like great at teaching, like very specific on our coaching points, our aiming points, and really something that I was just getting used to in college, talking about aiming points at Michigan State. And it's in some ways very similar to how it is here, but just to another level, from a professional point of view.
To bring it full circle with the college angle, what was it like going against Ruben Hippolyte against Maryland later this year? How did you game plan for him?
Yeah, so that was my first Big Ten game ever. And yeah, the scouting report was, they had, some pretty solid guys in the interior too, and Ruben was kind of heading that linebacker group. He has tremendous, sideline to sideline speed. He's a very instinctive player. And a guy that you gotta keep an eye on. When you're working a combo block or some sort of wide zone block up to him, like you don't want him to get outside your reach. Like obviously you don't want him to shoot gaps. When you're more of a down you know power gap type scheme. Just a guy you gotta look out for everywhere, and he's been a huge focus for our running backs too that week as well, and certainly a big key point for us too.
What's everybody doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Kyle, what's Eric Bieniemy like to play for?
He's a legend, number one. To begin with, just knowing his history, the people he's coached, the teams he's been a part of, and he's really insightful. Great coach, gets me ready for practice every day, and I'm excited for the future of what he's going to be able to teach me and being able to work with him.
Looking at your stats the last couple of years, they're elite. What explanation have you gotten for how you can produce the way you do in college, and yet there are a lot of other running backs drafted ahead of you in the draft?
Yeah, I don't concern myself with who went before me and all those things. The draft's over with. It's in my rear view for me, but definitely something I'll take with me as some fuel, chip on my shoulder. But that's kind of been my whole career, my path to getting here. And the things that allowed me to excel in college, I got to figure that out at this level first, and then use those things to my advantage, and then I expect to see the same results.
What are those things?
The little things, the little details. This being a professional sport and playing with grown men. At the end of the day, everyone's talented. Everyone's got the certain things that are necessary to be a football player. It's the little details that makes the great guys great. That allows them to see the results they see. So I got to figure out what those things are for me. I got a little idea, but now that I'm here, I get to kind of fine tune those things and figure it out, and then apply it to my game.
Luther also talked about having that chip on his shoulder from the draft and carrying that forward through his career. Is that something the two of you have talked about together?
I think as all of us as rookies, the guys that were drafted and even the guys that were signed, I think that's something we all take on our shoulder. Something that we all keep in our mind as this fuel, motivation. Something we don't dwell on, but it's like, hey, this is the reality of the situation, and that's how it ended up. But I think we all feel blessed to be here. Number one, and I speak for everybody, but I know we're blessed to be here. I love the situation we're in. I think we can do a lot of special things here, and like I said, it's just fuel.
Luke Newman said that he went up to you today when he was taking his cleats off and said, you torched us in the Rutgers Michigan State game. What was that like to hear from him?
Yeah, just like messing around. I love that we're teammates now, so we could joke about it. But whenever he wants to talk about college, I just look at him a little bit, and he knows. But it's all fun. I love that we're teammates now, and something we could joke about. But yeah, I told him, I said they know my name up there in East Lansing a little bit.
What is it like to go against guys that you were college rivals with, and all of a sudden you're basically pursuing the same dream together?
Yeah, it's fun. Colson, another Big Ten guy. Like, we talk about what college was like, and now that we're all here on the same team, trying to chase the same mission, chase the same goal. So we're excited to work together. I think we all have that kind of the grind mentality to us when we're working in practice and in the meeting room. So,
Along those lines, you played against Ruben, specifically at Maryland, and obviously him playing linebacker, you playing running back.
yeah.
You guys saw each other quite a bit. What do you remember about Ruben from Maryland?
Yeah, him being around me. Yeah, that's what I remember. Yeah, Maryland, saw them every year. So me and Ruben know each other well on the field, obviously. Now we get to know each other off the field. And, great player, great linebacker. Somebody, like I said, we met a lot of times in that hole. So, yeah.
Is there any specific play that stands out to you when you talk about going against him?
I can't think of one on the top of my head, but I'm sure if we look, it's gonna be a lot of just him and I collision. You know, I hope I won most of them, but yeah.
You mentioned, oh, okay.
You didn't get a ton of opportunity to do it in college, but it seems like you have really good hands receiving, at least from what we've seen out here. How would you evaluate yourself as a pass catcher out of the backfield?
I think it's something that I focus on, something that like you said, I didn't get as many opportunities to do it in college. I wish I could have, but you know, my role on the team wasn't that. So, you know, whatever my role is going to be that Coach Johnson wants to put me in, Coach Doyle wants to put me in. If I can showcase that, then I'll showcase that. But it's definitely something I work on each day.
You said you were overlooked growing up. How so?
I think my football career path has kind of been one of like, you know, he's a good player, but you know, it's just something off, like something that I don't think I'm gonna put him at the pedestal he should be. I was never always talked about in the top guys, usually from Pop Warner to middle school, high school, college, and then to now even. So it's not a new space, it's not a new environment for me. It's a role that I embrace, something I take on, and I think it's what honestly has made me the player I am. I think it's given me the fuel, the motivation to be, uh, you know, the running back I am, the football player I am.
Is it a size thing? Why do you think about?
I don't even concern myself with why. I just go and prove it to myself first, and then you know it proves itself on the game day.
Ball security is a really good trait of yours. How did that become one of your best skills?
Something you focus on. You know, grip strength, one of them things that I do like day in day out. Hand strength, you know, focusing on and taking care of the football, being in traffic, putting two hands on the football, things like that. Um, but yeah, like you know, zero fumbles in college is not something that just happened by chance. It's something I definitely focused and worked on.
Have any of your fellow backs reached out to you, Johnny Swift and Roshan Johnson in particular, and what are your thoughts on those two guys?
Yeah, everybody in the room in some form of you know in some capacity reached out. You know, welcome me to the team, welcome me to the room, and you know I'm excited to get to work with these guys in this coming week, and you know great people to learn from. You know they've been here, they've done it, so I'm excited.
Do you have a sense for what your role is in that room?
Nah, no sense yet. You know it's rookie minicamp and just focus on today, focus on the weekend. It was a great weekend, number one, but you know I haven't thought about any roles, nothing. I'm just trying to prove to the coaching staff, let them know that they made the right decision to bring me here.
Last one, Chris. When you go back to ball security, how early in your career did you start working on that specific skill?
Um, you know, in college, you know, Coach Shiano stresses the ball more than anything. You know, there's one thing you leave Rutgers with, it's, you know, taking care of the football and taking it away on defense. So as soon as I got there, really, you know, freshman year on,